Let's talk about turning emotions into productivity.
DreAllDay.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. And let me tell y'all a quick story. So this happened when I was playing ball. So I was probably about age maybe 15 or 16, somewhere around that age group. This is in my hometown, Philadelphia, where I'm from, uptown, Mount Airy. Shout out to everybody in Mount Airy. And there was a Christmas tournament coming up. And this was like a neighborhood Christmas tournament for the kids who played at the local rec center, not our schools, but we all went to different schools, but the local rec center. So we were hosting at our playground, and my playground I played was called Finley Recreation Center. So they're hosting a Christmas tournament there at Finley, and high schools were coming and bringing their teams to the tournament. But then our rec center was putting our own team in the tournament with kids from the neighborhood. So we all come to the rec center at the day that the tournament was starting. And the coach for the team, and this is going to be like a younger team. This is like 14, 15-year-olds, because a lot of the kids who are older, 16, 17, they played for their high school. So some of them were playing with their schools in our tournament. So we're going to put together this local neighborhood team. And the coach was a guy named Bob. And Bob had coached a lot of us since we had been like even younger, like 10 years, 12 years, whatever. So he'd been coaching several of us for several years. And we all kind of grew up coming to the playground every day, playing ball, etc. So we all knew each other. So we're all sitting out in the lobby of the gym. And Bob comes out there and he says, "Hey, everybody who I called on phone, come into the back, like the office space where he was going to give people their uniforms and tell them what the plan was, etc." So not everybody got up. It was like 20 of us sitting out there chilling. And I guess he had called maybe like 10 or 12 different people. Now, I had not gotten a call from Bob, but I figured there's no way that he didn't call me, because I came to the park every day. I knew I could play. I mean, I wasn't a great player, but I was adequate. And all these other kids, we're all kind of the same level of players. So I'm like, all right, ain't no way he didn't call me. So maybe the call just went to the answer machine. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe he didn't try to call again. Maybe my parents didn't tell me that he had called, because this is before cell phones. Right? Cell phones existed, but it was like landline. It was mostly landline calls. So maybe I just missed the call. So I figured there's no way he didn't call me. I was absolutely convinced he had to have called me. So, and before he had came out there, the other kids were sitting there like, "Yeah, Bob called you. Yeah, he called you. Yeah, he called me. He called you. Yeah, he called me." But he hadn't called me. I was like, ain't no way he didn't call me. So I'm absolutely, he had to have wanted me on his team. So he says, "Everybody who I called, come to the back." So then a bunch of kids who I got called got up and started going to the back. And I started going to the back because I'm like, again, ain't no way. And then he said it again. He said, "Everybody who I called, come to the back." I went to the back anyway, even though I knew he hadn't called me. So everybody goes in the back, at least the people he had called and me. And he looks around the room. He says, "Hey, Dre, come out here real quick." And he calls me out into it was a different office where the other coaches would sit in there. They were just sitting there and chill. So he calls me into that office, and it's me and him. And then there's like two other guys who are neighborhood coaches. They're sitting in there and they can see the conversation. They can hear the conversation. He's like, "Dre, you're going to play we're going to have another tournament at Martin Luther King Day," because Christmas is like the end of December. Martin Luther King Day is like 3 weeks later, right? Mid-January. He's like, "You're going to play in the Martin Luther King tournament." And I'm looking at him confused. I'm like, "Well, why am I not playing in this tournament?" And he was like, he didn't answer the question. He said, "You're going to play in the Martin Luther King tournament." Kind of like how your parents would say to you, like when you ask a question, they just reiterate the same thing they already told you. So, and I was like, I didn't say anything. I just turned around and walked out. So here's the whole point of here's where it starts. Is the first thing that I felt when he said that he told me I wasn't playing in this tournament and you're going to play in the Martin Luther King tournament, which was like another tournament that the neighborhood rec center was hosting, which is good. I mean, it's an opportunity to play, but I had not been chosen. I'd been passed over for this first one. So the first thing that I felt when he first said that, and it first registered to me, I wasn't going to play in this tournament. First thing I felt was disappointment, because I'm like, all right, I play basketball. I want to play in this basketball tournament. I came to the rec center that day anticipating I was going to be playing in the tournament. I told my mom, like, "Hey, I'm about to go to the gym because we got a basketball tournament." She's like, "All right." So I'm expecting to go play some basketball. And I got my sneakers with me. And now I'm being told by the coach, "You ain't playing." And so I was disappointed in that I'm not going to be playing. That was the first emotion that I felt. The second emotion, and it didn't take long for me to get to the second emotion. It took probably about 10 seconds for me to get to the second emotion, was embarrassment. The second thing I felt was embarrassed for several reasons. Number one, I told my mom I was about to go play in the tournament, and now I'm not playing. I guess I'm going to be watching or go back home and not play it and say to my mom, hey, well, they didn't pick me, so I'm not playing at all. I could either do that I would be embarrassed by that. Then there was the embarrassment of the fact that when he told me, you're not going to play in this tournament, you're going to play in the King tournament, he didn't tell me in front of the other players, but he told me in front of the other coaches. So it was other people in there who saw and heard this conversation and saw me basically get turned away, like, yo, you're not playing. So I was embarrassed by that. And then the third reason that I felt embarrassed was that the other guys who were still in that room, who he had called, the people he had called to come play in the tournament, well, why did he pick them but not pick me? All right, what is so much better about them compared to me that I didn't get chosen? So I was embarrassed by the fact that he looked at all of us kids in the neighborhood, because we were all about the same age. We all came to the gym all the time to play, the rec center all the time to play. Now we all, again, we were, like any one of us was so far ahead of anyone else. None of us was on our high school teams at this point, because we were all freshmen and sophomores in high school at this time. And a lot of us didn't make our high school teams till we were juniors and seniors, or many juniors, some people sophomores, but for the most part, we weren't playing even if we were on the teams. So I'm like, so what is it that's so great about them compared to me that I'm not on the team, but they're on the team? Are they that much better than me? I didn't think they were, but clearly he did, because he picked them, he didn't pick me. So I was embarrassed about that. And then it was just embarrassment with myself. Like the fourth embarrassment was just embarrassment with myself, because I come to the rec center and play basketball all the time. I go to the outdoor playground because this is Christmas. So this is Philadelphia. So it's wintertime. Nobody's playing outside. But in the summertime, I'm always out there. He sees me out there. The other coaches see me out there. The other kids see me out there. So why are they getting picked, but I'm not getting picked? So it was just embarrassment with myself. I'm putting this effort into being a basketball player, or at least whatever I think I am as a basketball player, and I'm not being chosen. So it was embarrassment on that level as well. So it went from, so the first emotion was disappointment, sadness and disappointment. Second emotion was embarrassment. Now, the games didn't start for, it was probably about an hour or so before the games began, because the tournament was that day. So me and a couple other kids who didn't get picked to play in the tournament, I didn't really talk to them about why they didn't get picked. A couple of them who didn't get picked just left and went home. They didn't hang around and stay because they just, and we didn't really see them anymore. But it was a couple of us who stayed around, and we just stayed and watched, because we're from the neighborhood. We know the kids who are playing, so we wanted to see what they were going to do. And we wanted to see the tournament, see what these other players and these other teams are about. And we sat there and watched. And I wrote about this in my first book, Buy a Game, that you can get for free at, I think it's workonyourgame.com/buy-a-game, or workonmygame.com/buy-a-game. I don't remember what link I put it at, but I put that book out for free when it first came out. And that sadness and embarrassment, I quickly transmuted that energy into anger. It became anger. And it wasn't anger in a negative way, like I was lashing out. I didn't go and cuss out the coach. I didn't go, and mind you, we're talking the 90s here. So the 1990s when this happened. This is not the year 1990, but the decade. And it's not like you can go on the internet and talk crap about anybody. That didn't exist. That wasn't the thing. And I didn't go break anything or anything like that. This is all within myself. I didn't express any of this. I didn't express sadness. I didn't express embarrassment. I did not express anger. It was just all these things were happening within myself. And that embarrassment turned into anger. And what I did with that anger was not, again, it wasn't an immediate lash out. I didn't go do anything rash. I sat there and watched the tournament, and I watched my peers, my friends play in the tournament. They didn't do too well. I mean, they were young guys, so they weren't expecting to compete in the tournament. They lost every game they played in the tournament, which was expected because they were young. They're playing against high schoolers, juniors and seniors. They got beat. But I remember sitting there watching that, and it really angered me, the fact that those other kids have been chosen over me. And that anger, what I did was transmute it, and I'll explain what that means in a second, into a slow burn of long-term energy that I transmuted into more productive things, like discipline, like that discipline, the effort discipline that I put into getting better at basketball. Because I'm like, all right, well, if he chose them over me, then some reason he thinks they're better than me. I don't think they're better than me, but clearly he does. So now I got to prove my point. And I didn't want to prove it by talking, because in the sports world, you don't prove your point by talking. You prove your point by playing, right? So I had to get better at basketball. Let me get better to the point that there is no way that anybody will ever be able to say that these guys are better than you. So that was number one thing that I wanted to prove. Then I wanted to make sure that I beat all of those players. I wanted to make sure that I outlasted those players in the long run. Because mind you, this happened, we're 14, 15 years old. So we're all barely starting high school at this point. So let's go through high school. Let's go through college. Let's see, maybe somebody makes it to the pro level. Let's find out where that goes. Long story short, many of those peers of mine who played in that tournament over me, were chosen over me. Many of them didn't even play in high school. Only a handful of them even got a chance to play in college, and none of them played professionally. I did all three of those things. But again, I want you to keep in mind, this was a long-term thing. This is years. Like, college doesn't start, what was college? You're 18 years old? This happened when I was 15. So it was over 3 years. Then pros, I didn't start playing pros until I was 23. So this is 8 years and before all of this stuff got to play out. The whole point here, and what I want to explain to you all, is, first of all, let's talk about transmuting. If you read Napoleon Hill's book called Think and Grow Rich, if you have not read that book, I suggest you read it. In that book, Napoleon Hill talks about transmuting energy. And he specifically talks about transmuting the sexual energy that males have and transmuting that energy into doing positive things, doing positive, productive things to help you achieve your outcomes in life. And one of the things that he talks about is men don't really reach their full mental maturity until they get to their early 40s. And that's when they stop using that sexual energy towards sex, and they start using it towards production and achievement. And this is why many men, they achieve their highest levels of accomplishment after the age of 40. Usually between the ages of 45 and 55 is usually the highest level of income earning and success accomplishment for males. If any of you didn't know that, now you know. So any of you who's 25, you haven't reached your goals yet, understand you still got a couple decades before you get there. And myself even also, I'm only 41 years of age. And he talks about that transmutation. And that's really the point that I wanted you all to get here. And the reason why I was able to transmute that energy from the disappointment and the embarrassment and the anger into positive outcomes is several reasons. First of all, I had good home training. In our communities, we call it home training. Home training just means you have a parent or parents at home. I have both parents who teach you right from wrong. They teach you discipline. They teach you how to do things in a smart way. So even if you feel a destructive emotion, you don't go and do destructive things because you were taught to do things in a positive way and to kind of think before you take actions. So because I had that, number one, I was able to transmute any energy that could become destructive, like anger or frustration or embarrassment. And I could figure out how to put some thought in between the stimulus and the response. And that's where you get a response instead of a reaction. The difference between a response and a reaction is the reaction there's no thought. There's just instinctive. You immediately do something. A response is you put a thought after the stimulus and you choose what to do rather than you just do something and it's like you didn't have control over yourself. So that was number one. And then also over time, as I got older, let's say by the time I got to 18 years of age, college, and then into the professional level and being an adult, is that you learn how to control this energy. So this is not something that just automatically happens. You learn how to control it. So when you feel frustration, you feel embarrassment, you feel sadness, you feel anger, you feel disappointment, any of these emotions that may be triggered by something that you did not want, whether it's something that somebody else did, something that someone else didn't do, just an unexpected outcome or circumstance in your life, your job is to do the work on yourself mentally to where you can take that emotion that you don't want and channel that energy, because there's energy in emotion. Every emotion has energy in it, whether it's something you want or something you don't want. It's to channel the energy of that emotion into something that you do want. Whether that means it's discipline for you to go work on your game over the off season so you can be ready for the next opportunity, whether it's more focus, whether it's building up your confidence, whether it's building your mental toughness. All right, this disappointment happened, but I'm going to use this situation, this circumstance of this disappointment to make sure that I don't feel this way anymore. And that's what the transmutation is about. Taking that energy that you feel that maybe you want or you don't want, whatever reason, taking the energy out of the emotion and using it for something that you do want, whether it's something that randomly occurred or something that you chose to have occur. Is the transmutation is extracting the energy from one thing and putting it towards something that you want, to where you start to control it. So what you got to understand about emotion is that you can't always control what emotions you feel. Right? An emotion can be triggered by anything. You can't control that. What you can control is, number one, you can control your response. You do not have to react to an emotion. You can respond to an emotion. That means you put space in between what happens and what you do. That's the thought process. Number one is you put space in between it. So you can't control the emotion. And then the other thing is you can't control the emotion, but you can control your response to it. And the second thing is, once you understand the emotion is there and you recognize, okay, this is what I'm feeling. I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, I'm embarrassed, I'm angry, whatever it is. How do you pull the energy out of that and go put it towards something that will actually work for you and get you to where you want to go? The only way you can do that is, first of all, you got to know where you want to go. Then you got to know, what's the process for me getting there. When you know what the process is, now you take that energy out of the emotion you don't want and put it into that process. And that's how you get the outcome. So this is how I'll give you an example that many of you may be able to relate to a little bit better. Take somebody like Kobe Bryant. In his rookie year in the NBA, he got trusted by the coach to take some last second shots. They were playing the Utah Jazz in the playoffs, and Kobe shot a bunch of air balls late in the game, fourth quarter and in overtime. And the crowd was, kind of cheering as he shot the air balls because the game was in Utah. The Lakers got eliminated from the playoffs. And Shaq pulled Kobe close after the game was over, after they got eliminated, and said, hey, remember these fans booing you, and use that as energy to move yourself forward. Kobe went right to the gym, worked on his game, and got better. And over the years, I don't think Utah beat them again after that. And Kobe pretty much beat Utah the rest of his career. He took the energy from that situation that wasn't what he wanted, and he applied it to working on his game so he could get better, so he wasn't shooting air balls again at the end of games with the season on the line. I don't think he ever did that again for the rest of his career. And as a matter of fact, last game of his career, 60 points against who? The Utah Jazz, right? Believe it or not. So that's what happened. You take another situation like, there was a guy named Lee Iacocca. He used to work for, what was that? I think it was the Ford company. He got fired by the Ford company. He was an executive at Ford. He got fired by I believe it was the Ford company. And he went and took over a company called Chrysler. And Chrysler was failing and on the verge of going out of business. He went and saved that company and brought that company back to prominence at that time. This is in the early to mid to late 80s that he did this. And he did it fueled by the disappointment and sadness and anger that he had over the fact that he had been fired by his previous employer. So he took that energy and he transmuted the negative emotion into positive, productive activity. And this is what I want all of you to understand. This is something that all of you can get good at doing. The thing is, you have to do the work on yourself mentally to actually make this work. And this is what, in Work on Your Game University, this is what we help people do. You can see the link for the university down below in the description to this video. So with all that said, folks, this ability to transmute is going to play a big role in your lives. This is especially important for the males because I'm a male, so I know the male perspective. Maybe better than I know a lot better than I know the female perspective. And especially those of you who are competitive, those of you who are athletes, especially, and even if you're an entrepreneur, is taking that energy of whatever situation that you're in, even if you don't like that situation, and saying, how can I channel this? Because you got to understand that there's energy in everything. Energy is 85% of the job in life. So you need energy. It doesn't matter where it comes from or why you're feeling it, even if it's energy that you don't want, like anger, disappointment, frustration, embarrassment, sadness. There's energy in it. Your job is not to push it away or try to hold it down. Your job is, let me grab the energy out of this and put it towards something that I want. This is how you start controlling it. This is the skill of transmutation. You get good at this, you'll have all the energy you need to fuel whatever goals, dreams, objectives, outcomes you wish to achieve. So with all that said, folks, I send out a daily motivation text every day for free. You want to get it? The numbers down below is 305-384-6894. And as I already mentioned, Work on Your Game University. That's a place where I do all my coaching, all my programs, all my trainings, all of that stuff. I have a program called Bulletproof Mindset that teaches you how to do this stuff that I'm explaining here. That's all available to you as a member of the university. The link is down below in the description, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all